is a lot of needless thinking that leads to needless and frequently non-existent issues, like when you wake up in bed at night and begin to worry. It causes a great deal of needless misery. Therefore, many are unaware that a large portion of their sadness is actually caused by needless negative, frequently destructive, mental activity. First and foremost, mindfulness is realizing that there is a voice in your head that is always making observations about your life and the events that are taking place in your environment. It's the self-talk, and everyone is aware that it involves talking to oneself. You may speak to oneself in the first person. Some people use the second person, you, when speaking to themselves. So you may become irritated with yourself and then say, "You shouldn't have done that." After that, you might think, "Yes, but I couldn't help it." You may even hear a third person asking, "Why can't I get out of my self-talk?" It's also self-talk. The first item is something really fundamental and straightforward, which is the first awakening or spiritual awakening. But you thought it was you. Finding out that there is a voice in your head that speaks to you constantly, mostly inaudibly, is a revelation. You are deemed nuts if you are talking aloud all the time and no one else is nearby. And that's only if it's spoken out loud, but most people think it and it's accepted as normal. They're not crazy. However, the two don't differ all that much. Additionally, you might occasionally hear a man grumbling while strolling down the street while you listen to them. And you respond, "Oh, he's really insane." However, you can be performing the same thing in your mind rather than aloud. "Why didn't I? That's what I ought to have said. How come I didn't mention that? I will know exactly how I will respond the next time he does that." And so forth. Or you start worrying while lying awake at night. "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" You ask yourself as you wake up, "And what if he does that? What if that fails and something goes wrong?" And so forth, and eventually you enter it and find yourself captivated. A single thought generates more and more thoughts. God, oh God. The body subsequently loses the ability to discriminate between what your mind is saying and what is actually happening in real life. Therefore, your body responds to every fearful idea you have. That's an emotion, too. The emotion you experience in your body is the reaction of the body. Because the body is unable to discriminate between thoughts and actual events, feelings of dread are the body's way of telling you that you are in danger. There is an actual danger here. As a result, you experience worry and fear. You experience agitation, which is not only unpleasant, but it also affects the body and reduces its capacity to fight disease if you engage in that type of pointless, dysfunctional, destructive thinking year after year. The link between your mental and physical wellness is already becoming recognized by orthodox medicine. As a result, we are increasingly realizing that in the past, they denied it entirely. They didn't look at anything but your body. They just examined one specific symptom rather than the entirety of the body, even within the body. What's the matter with that specific organ? Of course, there are specialists in mainstream medicine as well. The liver is my area of expertise, along with this and that. Not just failing to consider the entirety of the body, but more significantly failing to consider the entirety of the individual, which encompasses both the mind and the physical body. Therefore, it's crucial to first recognize that you have a voice in your head that frequently engages in self-talk. It's also interesting to note that many people's self-talk is not always negative. However, it has more harmful than favorable effects on a lot of people. There was a pleasant event yesterday. You may have attended a pleasant reunion or you may have gone outside and seen a stunning sunset. Let's say you think about it today and say something like, "That was a beautiful sunset," or, "We had a nice talk yesterday." However, you can't think about a pleasant incident for too long. However, the mind can begin to think, "Oh my God, what he did," when something bad happened yesterday, such as someone offending you or failing to give you the attention you needed or desired from him. "Next time he does that, I'm going to say that, or he really should," he says. Why doesn't he? You can focus on something terrible for a lot longer than you can on something wonderful. It seems that an apparently bad incident provides far more fodder for pointless mental activity than a good one. And for a lot of folks, this is life. A sizable portion of their mental activity is detrimental. Some people's opinions are nearly always negative. And I mean that because of your dominant mental and emotional states as well as your primary state of consciousness, there is a definite correlation between who you hang out with, where you are, and even the types of things that happen to you. There is a correlation that isn't always obvious right away. However, there is a connection between a person's prevailing mental and emotional state and their friends, coworkers, and even their personal circumstances. Therefore, you tend to attract unpleasant situations if you are in a really negative state for an extended period of time. However, you will have to discover it for yourself. There is a connection between your thoughts and your experiences. We can be conditioned to have constant commentary and statements about how awful my life is. When negative things happen as they do, the mind goes into a commentary. It might say, "Of course, bad things always happen to you, don't they?" If that kept coming to mind whenever something negative happened, you will undoubtedly experience them. It always happens to you. If we continue in this state of mind, bad things will happen. So, the first step towards spiritual awakening is realizing that the mind is constantly active. Additionally, some people notice that a sizable portion of their mental activity is unpleasant. The important thing, though, is realizing that I have this constant dialogue going on in my head, which is referred to as normal and is thought to be the typical human condition. It goes without saying that you cannot stop thinking. There will be thinking, of course. But the real question is, do you think with awareness? Additionally, you may be able to recognize it in others more readily if you can recognize when you are engaging in that pointless mental activity and suddenly become conscious of some repeating thoughts that seem to keep coming up in your head. On family occasions, when you meet your family members or relatives, some of you may find that you already know what they will say because they have said the same thing 5, 10, and last year. And when you see them the following week, you will hear the same thing if they have unfavorable opinions about you or someone else. Thus, it is simpler to observe how others are enmeshed in recurring mental patterns. Seeing it in oneself is more difficult. This explains the adage that self-knowledge is the most difficult knowledge. Seeing other people is easier. However, if you can say, "Oh, that's all just," when a particular thought occurs to you, even in the middle of it, "I've had this thought for years. It comes again and again and again. And just as you are, someone is watching." After that, you can. Furthermore, perceiving presence is simply the capacity to acknowledge that there is a voice in your head and that thoughts exist. And you come to the realization that while some of those thoughts are bad, many of them are actually superfluous and negatively impact your life. For example, anxiety. Thus, the majority of people have what I refer to as a congested mind. They are totally oblivious to the constant flow of mental commentary when their mind is congested. If you find that you frequently feel inadequate, lacking, or not enough, it is not an accomplishment, and do as much as you can. That is the remedy. It takes spiritual practice and spiritual realization to transcend, to move past your position of neediness, insufficiency, and inadequacy. Concentrate on the awareness of existence. You can only transcend that ego-based state of lack there. Explore your inner self and uncover your true self.